Can you do such a thing as cultural appropriation if you yourself are brown? To answer this question, we first have to understand what the term cultural appropriation means. One of the online definitions of cultural appropriation goes: cultural appropriation takes place when members of a majority group adopt cultural elements of a minority group in an exploitative, disrespectful, or stereotypical way. The Encyclopedia Britannica gives an interesting example of Madonna. In 1990, Madonna released the music video for her song Vogue, which featured a dance voguing. Strike a pose. Though Madonna included drag performers in the video, ostensibly respecting the dance's origins, she was the one who profited when Vogue went double platinum in the United States. Because Madonna gained financial and cultural capital from voguing in a way that its creators did not, her use of the dance was cultural appropriation. Arooj Aftab's work fits this bill perfectly in the Pakistani context. She took every single one of her songs from classical Pakistani sources, did not credit them, and when she won a Grammy for a song sung by Mehdi Hassan, she failed to even mention the poet or original composer.
Thank you so much to everyone who helped me make this record, all of my incredible collaborators, music collaborators, for following me and making this music that I made about everything that broke me and put me back together. Thank you for listening to it and making it yours.
So basically, she gained all her cultural capital off of the backs of people she did not credit in any way. This can also be observed in a slightly different context. I once asked the writer Mohsin Hamid to do a podcast with me. He seemed game, but when I told him my channel is solely in Urdu, so I can reach an audience one otherwise might not reach, he refused. This refusal to engage with the country or the people upon whom you have built your brand can also be seen as a form of extraction from your culture, selling it to the West, and then refusing to engage with your own people. The reasons for not talking to a general audience can also be related to personal safety, because English writers may feel the words will have a different impact on a non English speaking audience, and that's fine, I suppose. But they often position themselves as activists and change makers, when the only change they really want to bring is in their own lives through access to global cultural capital. The feminist group Women's Action Forum, that protested against Zia's Hudud ordinances on Mall Road, Lahore, got the Urdu poet Habib Jalib to protest alongside them. He provided them with talent and Urdu creativity that they lacked, and to this day, they use his image and persona to commemorate that event. However, those ladies started elite private schools and NGOs and continued to benefit from their generational wealth and connections, while Habib Jalib died destitute. Is it strictly cultural appropriation? I cannot say. But it is exploitation of the world's English speaking global elites of people who do not operate in that universe but can be useful to them for a certain purpose and period of time. And if you're watching this and can understand what is being said, you and I are part of it. How? Here is an example. I recently saw a reel by a content creator where he talks about Park Tea House, Lahore.
जब गालिब ने 1800s में फरमाया
He starts with Ghalib, who obviously has no connection to Park Tea House, and suggests that Ghalib was well fed, that's why he wrote about love and romance. But then, later Urdu poets fueled the independence movement among 2 billion people because their poetry was about more political subjects. He uses Faiz's Mujhse Pehli Si Mohabbat as an example and then goes on to claim that post independence Faiz, Faraz, and Manto used Park Tea House as a base to ponder over the issues facing Pakistan. This then turns into a Lipton ad. It's infuriating for someone who might know something even slightly about any of the above topics. A. Ghalib did not merely write about romance. B. Later poets didn't write merely about politics. They did not abandon romance, certainly not Faz or Faraz. As for Ghalib, even I know that beyond courtly romance, the metaphysical ponderings of his poetry, particularly the intricate poetic forms through which he passes them, are genius. And this is not my opinion, this is expert consensus on Ghalib's poetry. And it's not possible to go against this consensus unless you, at the very least, have also attempted reading Ghalib seriously and can have an informed opinion on him. Also, saying that he failed to connect with the masses is so generalized a statement that it would take much more than a few-second reel to debate it. But that is obviously not the way of social media. On social media, you merely name check Ghalib, Manto, Faiz, and Faraz to project a superficial sense of cultural understanding to an audience incapable of doing anything but doom scrolling through fashion, comedy, and assorted reels. They suddenly alight upon a topic of this sort presented in as superficial a way as any GRWM video, and it makes them feel, oh wow, look at me, I'm cultured. I know names of four of these exotic shires, hence, I'm not disconnected from my cultural and linguistic history. This is what previously English newspapers in Pakistan used to do as well. As an English newspaper editor of yore, I don't know how many articles I've published on Manto or Faz, as if no third writer exists in the Urdu language. The reasons stay the same. English speaking audiences being content with throwing around names of local writers to leverage an even more clueless audience instead of bothering with real engagement with universes that will not give them global cultural capital. All my childhood, my father spent weekend evenings at Parkty House. It was a name omnipresent in my home, so I know a little bit about it from osmosis. And reducing it to three names who pondered about the issues facing Pakistan is reductive to say the least. It's Party House in the imagination of someone who has heard about it from someone else, who has heard about it from someone else, and all of them repeat the same hackneyed lines because all of them read about it in an English newspaper whose writer had also only heard about it from someone else. Now, all of this is great, but what does it have to do with cultural appropriation, you may ask? And I will say that English or burger content creators, whether they be diaspora or belonging to Pakistan, are aligned with and speaking to a powerful group of other English speakers worldwide. And by reducing local cultures to the same two notes, they overshadow those who may have actual immersion in these subjects and may be able to speak about them, but do not have the social advantages that would make them popular on social media, or that they simply refuse to reduce a culture they can see is deep and expansive into 2-minute reels. All this is to say that people whose first language or language of ease is English belong to a global elite that has access to scholarships, the potential to move from the global south to the north in relatively comfortable ways. And if you receive all your knowledge from people with just that vantage point, you are locking yourself into an echo chamber whose epicenter is the West. It does not matter if it comes from a white or a brown person in the West, or whether that knowledge is about Islam or something Eastern. It is still in its orientation geared entirely towards a multicultural, multi religious world where English is the default language and Islam a minority religion, and it lulls those who partake in this global culture into the belief that they too live in that universe, that they too are somehow a minority, when in fact, in their own worlds and countries and societies, they hold immense majority as well as class privilege that they overlook every day because cultural association with minorities in the West has them blinded to their own realities. The people who are bringing you these missives from the surface are just profiting off of others whose cultural capital is of a local, hence less glamorous variety. They are taking it into the English speaking sphere that has greater reach and sheen without really caring to know anything deeper about the worlds they are superficially referencing for exotic cultural points. That's the classic definition of cultural appropriation. We are the white people of the global south.